It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Good morning. Welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, the 16th day of September. This morning, we're going to look at post-tropical Nicholas. Carnival backs off plans for Pier-side testing. Royal Caribbean changes deployment schedule for Wonder of the Seas. We got the details on Scarlet Lady's 3-day party in New York. A bit more from Sharon on board the Mardi Gras. And some thoughts on, from me personally, thoughts on MSC Virtuosa. But first, before that, real concerned about how things are down in Galveston. So my special guest today is Jim O'Neill of Galveston Experience Company. Jim, welcome to Chillie Chats. It's been a while since we talked. How you doing?
Chillie. You didn't have all your fancy equipment last time I saw you. So
yeah.
I'm glad to hear things are improving for you.
Well, we're getting there. All right. Yeah. You had some bad weather this week.
Well, yeah, it was not the, we certainly dodged a bullet, as far as what we've seen in past years. As it happens, it was 13 years exactly from Hurricane Ike, the one that took out all the piers in Galveston. So compared to that, Nicholas made landfall in a place called Sargent, which is south west of Galveston, and so it's a ways down. And when it made landfall, it was really only a Category 1. So that means you've got sorry about that. That means you've got 75 mile an hour winds, something in that category, to become a 1. And we did see a lot of storm surge. It was definitely some flooding downtown and some of the lower lying areas. But for those of us on the seawall, which is 17 feet above the Gulf, we were fine, and really not a lot of damage. I mean, we've seen so much damage in Louisiana and everything else, and we just feel like we got super lucky on this one.
Yeah. Cruise port still out. There's 4 ships I think selling out of Galveston now. Is it open for incoming this weekend?
Yeah, so I've just taken a look at the calendar here. Going out, we've got Carnival Vista, Breeze, and Dream are the 3 Carnival ships. And then at some point during the year, we're also got Liberty of the Seas and Adventure of the Seas with RCL. And then in December, Disney starts up. So we do have, they operate a pretty short schedule. But of course, what we're super excited about is the new Royal Caribbean terminal. And they're right now, it's actually kind of a cool process. They're dredging down at the port as they build the new RCL terminal. And what they're doing with all that dredge sand is they go around the end of the island and they're replenishing the beaches. So the area around 61st to 69th, all in through there, they're dumping that sand back up on the beaches, which of course is how they built up Galveston after the 1900 storm. And so now we got some nice big wide beaches that'll be done. They're doing that course section by section. Will be done by the end of the year. But port's still active. I did a little homework. I was kind of curious because of course everybody's starting up so slowly compared to 2019. In Galveston, 2019, we'd set a record of having over 1 million cruise ship passengers. And during the busy months, we were sailing 42 cruises out of Galveston. And right now, in September, we've got 11, October, we've got 17, 18 in November, and December has 22. So by December, we're going to be actually back to just a bit more than half of what we saw in 2019.
Have you been able to do any excursion tour business?
We had, we started the Galveston Experience Company, where we do our historic, our hurricane, and our ghost bus tours. We started that in 2019, but only in the last half of the year. So we were brand new. And of course, we got COVID out in 2020. And toward the end of the year, people kind of started coming back. And then this year, we've really, the business has gone quite well this year. However, Texas is spiking like everywhere else. And so people are a little less comfortable about getting, in a confined space than, on a big cruise ship or something like that. So it's been, we've had a good year. We'll make money this year, but, it's not what we would have expected had the spike not returned.
Yeah. Well, glad to hear that you are surviving it. A lot of people didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, Galveston is known as one of the most resilient cities on the planet. When you get 22 feet of salt water in 1900 coming across the island, at that point, most islands die. But it was such a wealthy island, they decided, let's build this place up. They dredged up the island. 500 city blocks were raised. 2,000 buildings were raised. And, we've got all that history from, when Galveston was founded in 1839. So it's a great place. If you're thinking of a new place to cruise out of, think about Galveston. It's easy to get to. We're just south of Houston, a lot of convenient airports. And, plan a couple of days before and after. And, especially in the wintertime, October, April, some of the best months down there. And so we're happy that so far this year we've been spared the hurricane monster. We've still got a couple of months in hurricane season, but we're watching things every day, and so far so good.
That's good news. One of my 6 cruises that got canceled last year was going to be out of Galveston because I've never sailed from there. So
yeah,
if I can ever get back on a boat, I'm heading your way.
I always say there's 2 kind of cruisers. There's the people like more days at sea and people like more ports. And if you like an extra day at sea, Galveston's a good place to cruise from because of our location. It takes us an extra day to get to the Keys or Jamaica, or whatever. And, for me, having been on, dozens of cruises over the years, when you cruise out of some place like, I don't know, Fort Lauderdale or even Puerto Rico, where you're right there in the middle of it, and you literally have a port every single day, it's kind of stressful.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I've never been here before. I guess I got to get up and go to do this, but I'd really rather hang out by the pool and read a book, So
I'm usually in the hot tub with a Bloody Mary in my hand.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are the difficult problems we all have to deal with, right?
All right. Well, Jim, I do appreciate your time this morning and giving us an update. I've had spies on the ships that are sailing out of Galveston, and they keep telling me, well, nobody said anything that we could be delayed getting back in there. What's the weather like there? And I said, well, I'll find out. So,
yeah. So the Dream was in port just with some maintenance stuff, and they let that one go a little bit early, a day early, just to get it out of the way. And then the Breeze left right on schedule, maybe a little bit early, but our cruises leave out of Galveston usually around 6 o'clock at night. And we didn't really have any of the bad weather come through until about 2 o'clock in the morning. So the fact that, it was also, if you watched Nicholas's track, it was also a bit to the north. Yeah. And so as soon as you got out of the harbor and got south, you're well away from it. So, and of course it's at landfall. You've got very limited winds. And so really that, the next day after Nicholas, we had awesome weather. So.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate your time this morning. I got to get on with the news.
All right, Chillie, good to see you, man.
All right. Good to see you. We'll talk to you soon. That, of course, is Jim O'Neill from Galveston Experience Company. Really do appreciate his time and efforts this morning. Good guy. Really good guy. All right. Before we look at the weather, guys, I do have to say good luck to Cruise Amigo Martin. Tonight is the Leisure Agent of the Year announcement over there in the UK. And he's one of the finalists. So Good luck to Martin tonight. All right, let's get to the weather. You know, it first lingered over southeastern Texas, dumping rain all along the coast and causing power outages in Houston. Since then, the storms moved east over Louisiana, sometimes as slow as 2 miles an hour. Can you imagine that? Nicholas is causing flooding in Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, with rain reaching northward into the Carolinas and Virginia. There's flash, it's now post-tropical, of course. There's flash flood, come on, tongue. Flash flood watches are in effect all along the central Gulf Coast from mid-Louisiana eastward across southern Mississippi and Alabama and to the Florida Panhandle. The center of post-tropical cyclone Nicholas, as of 4 a.m., which is the last bearings I had on it, was actually just barely over the water again. Now, it's not supposed to get any steam from this, but it's still, the actual center is still west of New Orleans, which is unbelievable. It's like 60 miles due south of Lafayette. Nearly stationarily, but it's crawling along. It's expected to head north today. Hopefully it'll pick up some speed and go on out of there. The winds are down. It's like 25 miles an hour with higher gusts. Additional weakening is expected later on today. The pressure still above 1,007 millibars. It should become ill-defined totally in the next day or so, as it and should struggle to develop even thunderstorms. But in the meantime, it's still sucking a lot of water up and throwing it up through the eastern part of the United States. I'm supposed to actually get some here in Virginia, some showers from it today. How's that? All right, now if we go back and look at the National Hurricane Map, there's showers and thunderstorms with very little organization about 500 miles west-southwest of Cabo Verde Islands. Earlier satellite-derived winds indicate the system also lacks a center. However, conditions are expected to remain conducive for development. You're looking at maybe 80% chance, possibly a 90% chance. That's the one, the red X there. All right, there's also shower activity that's poorly organized in association with a broad low-pressure system located several hundred miles to the southeast of the Outer Banks of North Carolina. This is the one that's been hanging out around the Bahamas for several days. Environmental conditions are expected to become more conducive for development. Tropical depression is likely today or tomorrow. And this is the one, folks, there's about a 70% chance that this thing is going to interact with some land, possibly Bermuda, as it heads off to the north. It could take a turn toward the States, could have some impact on the Outer Banks as it gets closer. This is one we'll just have to watch. It could be like the one a couple weeks ago and get on into Canada, land of Canada. So anyway, that's what's going on. And at least for this is the second day in a row there's been nothing in the Pacific. So that's a good thing. All right, Carnival. Only days after saying it was exploring option of pier-side testing, Carnival Cruise Line says that doing so is not a viable option. The prospect of testing at the point of departure was very appealing, especially those who are struggling to find locations at which they can be tested within the recently announced 48-hour window. Carnival Cruise Line President Christine Duffy outlined the new protocols and available options before explaining the testing at home port terminals is, at least for the moment, off the table. She said, while we had previously raised the possibility of more on-site testing at our terminals, The logistics of making this service widely available to a large number of guests does not make sense at this time. After a short break, Carnival Cruise Line's restart operations will continue this weekend without any pier-side testing in New Orleans and Galveston, as the Glory is supposed to sail from New Orleans, and Carnival Dream from Galveston. They're both set to sail Saturday. So that gets both ports back in line and 2 new Carnival ships back in line, but no pier-side testing, folks. They are giving you a link to order the take-at-home tests that they proctor and do all that stuff. It's cheaper, and they don't have to mess with it. You do. So, Royal Caribbean has announced a deployment change for the upcoming Wonder of the Seas, which will be the largest ship in the world. Instead of sailing its inaugural season from Shanghai, Wonder will now debut in the Caribbean in March of 2022. That's just, 6-7 months from now. Once there, it will sail 7-night voyages from Port Everglades. That's Fort Lauderdale, folks, to both the Western and Eastern Caribbean. Both itineraries will feature a stop at Royal's private island, Perfect Day, at Coco Key. The Oasis-class ship will then head to Europe in May of 2022 to operate 7-night Western Mediterranean sailings. Of course, Wonder of the Seas will be the 5th Oasis-class ship built for Royal Caribbean, joining sisters Symphony, Harmony, Allure, and Oasis. Each vessel in the class was the largest cruise ship in the world at the time it debuted, and Wonder will be the largest when it debuts in March. Okay. I fussed at my friend Shane from Virgin Voyages that there was no fanfare upon Scarlet Lady's arrival in New York, and it parked down there outside of Bayonne for a couple days. And he says, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be all about it." Well, I heard about it. Cruise lovers in New York City area will have a rare opportunity to explore Virgin Voyages' first cruise ship, the Scarlet Lady, during a special event starting today, with the ship temporarily visiting Manhattan before she heads to Miami to start its paid passenger season down there. Virgin is hosting a series of events aboard Scarlet Lady. Although the vessel will not be leaving the pier, guests willing to pay between $1,000 and $1,200 can purchase overnight stays aboard the ship, including the unique Rockstar Suites on Saturday. That's the 18th. Dining reservations will also be available in 6 of Scarlet Lady's restaurants. Priced at $100 a person, the experience includes food, drink at the chosen restaurant, drinks at any of the open bars on board, and tickets to see one of the 2 shows, Dual Reality or Party Thing, after dinner. Reservations are available for tonight, Friday, and Saturday night, but do not include the overnight stays. The real fun will take place on Saturday, they say. That's their decision on this one, starting with the Feeling Naughty drag pool party hosted by Trixie Mattel from noon until 3:30, priced at $100 a person. The event includes unlimited food and drinks. That's pretty cool. Then it'll host a music festival Saturday evening, host 80s to 90s themes fete with disco prohibition dance party. So Virgin's kicking off New York and partying hardy this week. All right, our friend Sharon, you remember we talked yesterday about the cruise director on board the Mardi Gras? Well, let's see. Do I have that loaded? Is that him? No, that's a different picture. That's a matter of fact, Sharon started showing me some food because she knows I tend to like food because I'm a big fat guy. Let's see. That looks like.
How's everybody doing? You feeling good? Listen, folks, there's one rule tonight. Very, very big rule.
That's Chris in action. He's the cruise director, and he's known as the Crazy Scotsman, and he is that. So anyway, Sharon's on board. Yesterday, they went into Amber Cove. You know, that's one of my favorite ports. I like Amber Cove. But I'm finding out from Sharon's pictures and stuff, and I can't wait till we interview her when she gets home. You know, when I was there, I went to the Canna Lounge. I had lunch, and that's where this pool bar is. And if you look over there, you can see where the swim up part of the bar is. Well, I was in that building for much of the day, sipping on pina coladas. I did a lot of that day. And that's looking back out at the pool. That's the main pool. Found out there's another pool there. I didn't know about the other pool. Sharon showed me that. And then she got back on board the boat and then ate some, and then went to the has some Mexican food there on Carnival. So she said she loves the food there. She's eating great. So I'm glad to hear that. We don't want Sharon to starve on this cruise. All right, guys, I have debated on how to handle this. We've talked about it for 3 or 4 days now, and there seems to be a lot of misrepresentation of the whole situation on board MSC Virtuosa. This past 4-day cruise seemed to have been back close to the way MSC did it when they first started back in the spring. That was one of the first ships to sail from the UK. And the eyes of the world were on MSC Virtuosa. And they did it right. They did everything right, which is why they successfully sailed for these many months. But then they went through a couple weeks of cruises, 7-day cruises recently, that they quit doing what they were doing in the spring. And as a result, ended up with quite a bit of outbreaks of the virus on board. I've talked with a number of the folks that tested positive, both during and after the cruise. And actually what I'd like to do is maybe put together some kind of a panel of them and maybe try to get a couple of the cruise influencers around that have bigger audiences than I have to sit down and let's talk about what we're seeing from the MSC. Now, keep in mind, folks, I do think this last cruise, the last 4-dayer, which was the last UK staycation, Virtuosa is now heading to warmer waters in the Mediterranean. The last 4 days was good from everything I've been able to gather from the people that I had on board. There were several people that I was in contact with during the whole cruise. But those couple weeks before that's a lot different. One couple, an 80-year-old couple, Marilyn and David Thompson, and they said it was okay to use their names, tested positive on the second to last day of a week-long cruise on the Virtuosa. That was the 7-day before the last 7 days. So 3 cruises back, counting the last cruise being the 4-day cruise. They were afraid. They were scheduled to get off at Greenock in Scotland, and Scotland, of course, has had issues with anybody getting off of ships. They kept ships from stopping in Scotland for a good bit of the times that they were sailing around the British Isles. They were afraid that they wouldn't be allowed off at Greenock. They were marched to an isolation cabinet and left without drinking water or hand soap in their sinks, where they spent 25 hours desperately trying to get information from the officials on board, and basically they could get no information from the staff whatsoever. Another guest, I'm just going to call her Anita because I don't have specific permission to use her name, her full name, who's hoping that she will be able to sit down and chat with me at some point in time, is an interesting one to talk to because she was on the Virtuoso in June with her 80-year-old mother, who's been on 60 cruises. That was when MSC was doing everything right in June. Sadly, after a week cruise 10 days ago, Anita and her disabled mom, 80 years old, both tested positive. Anita is struggling at the moment as she has lung issues, had a PE last year. That's a pulmonary embolism. You know, I'm familiar with that, folks. And pneumonia 6 weeks ago, so she's been harder hit than most, unable to talk without coughing. Most cruises are 7 days. You often don't test positive for at least 5 days. In most cases, after you disembark, which then apparently is not the ship's problem, according to MSC. At least that's what they're telling all these folks. There's no track and trace, no responsibility from the cruise line at all. Now, these folks, guys, that are reporting on testing positive either during one of these 2 cruises or right after they got home, these folks are struggling, but I do want to be clear. They are not cruise haters. They are not people that are trying to score any type of financial gain. These are cruise lovers, just like you and me, guys, that would think nothing more than getting on a cruise ship and going wherever they can go. They want to make suggestions how the cruise industry might get better operating in a pandemic, not getting bashed and called liars and being blocked from even trying to discuss the issues on forums, which many of them have witnessed and felt. So far, the scorecard, folks, on the Virtuoso from those 2 weeks is 80 confirmed cases that I know of. There could be more. That's definitely more than 1 or 2 cases. One passenger sent her son back to school. He tested positive at school. Within a few days, 22 of his classmates tested positive. That's what happens in the middle of a pandemic, folks. And it's not this kid's problem. It's not his fault. This clearly isn't the classmate's fault. As long as we want this industry to operate and keep operating, I think the cruise lines have to continue doing what Virtuosa was doing originally, and what at least some of the cruise lines have tried to do sailing from the States. Some of them not as much as others. Clearly, Celebrity has been doing a masterful job. There's some issues with Carnival. Not serious yet, but some possibilities. CDC is watching every Carnival movement now. So they've got to watch it close. Royal Caribbean and Celebrity, I think, are doing the best. So far, Norwegian has not been doing bad. Now, I'm no genius, folks. I'm just somebody that's cruised for a lot of years. I've been through a lot of things on cruise ships. I've never been through a pandemic before. But here are some ideas that I've garnished from either my knowledge, my experience, or from chatting with a few of these folks who are on board the Virtuoso that have now gotten sick. they are not blaming it on being on a cruise ship. Cruise ships need to be totally transparent, not only to the onboard guests, but to the health authorities. Don't try to hide it. It's going to come out. And to the public. Instead of thinking, oh, we don't want the public to know because they might get afraid and not sail on our cruise ship until next year when it's safer. We want their money now. We want to recover. You got to think a little differently, folks. You got to let the public know what's going on. You got to be honest with them. That's one of the things that I've learned to like about celebrity, because I've witnessed it when I've been on live streams with people where the captain has come on the loudspeaker and said, may I have your attention, folks? We just had a positive test case. If you were involved with such and such a cabin, the people there, you need to contact us because we need to contact trace immediately. And if you were in contact with these people, which if they have the wristbands and the medallions, they can tell you that you had contact with people. You need to quarantine and be tested. They need to be transparent with everybody. They can't hide on the cruise ship and say, oh my goodness, we got 30 people. We're not going to tell the rest of the people that they tested positive because they'll get upset. And maybe some of them will think they're positive and they're not. You can't think like that. There's got to be a complete effort of track and tracing on the ships as soon as you got a positive case. And as soon as the people, you got to follow up with the people when they get home. Or if they contact you back and say, I've been home 3 or 4 days and I just tested positive, I think you need to know that. Because maybe that cabin I was in needs a little extra cleaning or whatever. So you got to track and trace on the ship and for the people when they get home as well. You got to keep up with social distancing on the ships. That's one of the biggest things that Virtuosa did wrong. They threw it out the window. They packed people into the auditorium. And keep in mind, folks, these were cruises around UK, around the British Isles. These were not hot weather cruises where you can spend a lot of the day outdoors at the pool and walking around the jogging track on the ship. You know, around the UK, you got to spend a lot of time indoors because of the weather, and it's not as hot as it is other places. So you're inside. You need to stay socially. You need to stay 6 feet apart from people. You need to wear the masks indoors. I hate the masks. But you need to do it. And the cruise ships need to enforce it. Of course, sanitization beyond all, and hand washing, the hand washing stations, sanitizing gel everywhere. You got to do that. Keep it up. Probably the most important thing, folks, the cruise lines need to set the rules. Let everybody know the rules ahead of time. Enforce the rules and stick to them. If you got somebody on a cruise that doesn't want to wear a mask, kick them the hell off. If that's your rule. If somebody goes on a bubble tour, we were just talking with Jim about, he's got an excursion company, does not necessarily mean he can get cruise line business because some of them are doing only bubble tours that they vetted for safety. And I'm not saying anything good, bad, or different about Jim. And I'm not using him as an example other than we were just mentioning it a few minutes ago. But if somebody that's supposed to be on a vetted bubble excursion from a cruise line and they go off and want to go on their own, don't let them back on the boat. It's simple. And let people know, let your customers and guests know, if you don't want to follow the rules, don't cruise. Period. And as hungry as the cruise ships are, you got to do that, folks. You got to do it. Oh, goodness gracious. We can't have 80 people getting sick on a cruise ships and being back in a situation like we were in 18 months ago. That'll kill the industry totally. And none of us want that. Okay. That's enough ranting. Let's go see who's over in the audience if anybody's yelling at me. Sorry, I muted myself. Okay. JJ Cruz shirt. I told him I would model it this morning. So glad to have an addition to my wardrobe from my buddies at JJ Cruz. So Tom Henry's with us. Good morning, Tom. Jack's with us down in Conroe, Texas. Hey, Jack. Amy's with us. Hi, Amy. Good to see you again. Carol says, I love the sea days. I love the sea days too. I really do. I don't mind sea days at all. And I have usually, of course, I liked it when I didn't have to go on canned excursions. I just like to get off the port and go somewhere on my own was my thing. That's not allowed in a lot of places today. I can understand that. Then I would make the choice probably of either taking a canned excursion or staying on the boat. I did that the last two cruises I took. I stayed on the boat for several reasons. One, I was, on a scooter. And if it was some of the ports that you have to ride the boat into the port, they didn't allow scooters. Some did. But I stayed on board for several port days and loved it. Didn't have any lines for food. Didn't have anybody waiting to get in the hot tub either. I had a hot tub to myself. Didn't have to wait for drinks at the bar. Didn't mind it at all. Yes, Emily Hopalong's here. She wants to know how you're feeling, Tom Henry. I misread and was thinking, food? What food? Foot is doing well. No pain. Can't get it wet yet. Yeah, that's the main thing. It looks nasty. I'll tell you that. I've seen it. It looks horrible. But anyway. Emily says our new governor has mandated daycare facilities and toddlers to wear masks. Oh, toddlers. That could be a difficult one because they're not going to understand why. The younger ones especially. Akron Children's Hospital is full. They're pleading with people to wear masks in schools and get vaccinated. Chillie, can you get the booster vaccine? I've already gotten it. I was one of the first people in Lynchburg to get the booster. And that was because of my health situation. I saw a commercial on TV from Doc Dave Chosky, something like that. Someone like yourself can receive the booster vaccine. Yes. If you've got the any kind of health issues and are over 62, I think it is, you should be first in line. Now, some states are different from others. But, yeah, I got my booster. Wow, it's been a couple of weeks ago now. CVS. Got the booster. Yeah, Gretchen says I think he's gotten it. Both Cindy and I have boosters, Tom says. No issues. Just went to CVS online and booked the appointment. That's the same thing I did. There are places I do know where people have been said, no, not yet. You got to wait till such and such a date. Probably because they don't have any underlying issues. But still, check with CVS or Walgreens, Kroger pharmacies. Emily says, I wore my mask at the Greek fair when I had to order food. It's an outdoor event. Some people did, some people did not. I only took it off after eating and drinking. Now, I will point out to you that my family here in Virginia has decided to, because of the situation we're in here now, we're going to go back to self-imposing our own staying at home, except for my medical stuff and therapy that I have to go to. For now, we're going to quit going out to eat. We will order from restaurants and pick it up where they have the curbside pickup, like we did last night, as a matter of fact. But we are going to go back to not going out. Last Friday, Lynchburg, Virginia, was ranked third in the country in percentage increase in COVID cases. Our two hospitals here are at 106% capacity as of yesterday. So we're tightening them back up here. We got 6 or 8 weeks of being relaxed with it, and we're tightening it up again. So love Chillie's rants. He had to adjust his oxygen nose piece several times. Yeah, I did. It's popped out when I was going off. But anyway, I'm serious about that, folks. I want to try to put something together. These guys over there that were on the Virtuoso, they're not haters. They're like us that got sick on it. If we got sick on the boat, we'd all be the same way. Only I really do think that MSC treated them terribly, and the MSC needs to clean up their act on that. Now, it seems like the last cruise, they did better, but that's just my feelings on it. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap me up for today. If you're new to this channel, welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. As always, I appreciate thumbs up, likes. If you want to dislike it, you dislike it too. But that tells YouTube that somebody's watching. So appreciate all that, guys. I'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time for Friday Travel and Cruise Industry News. In the meantime, guys, y'all have a great day. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time, same channel. Later, y'all.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.